Cundiff and Heidi from the Kentucky League of Cities. So why don't we get started? We'll call the meeting to order, and all members of the council are present. This is a special meeting of the Prospect City Council held for the sole purpose of discussing the proposed budget. Having said that, I'll turn it over to the members of the council for their discussion.
I think what we'd like to start with is our guest from the Kentucky League of Cities. And I understand, maybe if you'd start by telling us your name and your title, then at least we'll know who to talk to.
Sure. This is Heidi Lynn, and my title is Administrator of Member Benefits.
Thank you. It would help if you'd start by telling us what benefits the city of Prospect gets from you.
When you purchase your health insurance through the city, it is not like going direct to a company where you're based on the health of your area. You're actually based on the health of other groups like yourself. They actually medically underwrite your plan along with all the other 200 and some cities that we have covered in the association, and they'll determine your rate for the next year. So if you have a really healthy group, that healthy group is still going to get a low rate because they're healthy. But if you have a group that maybe has somebody who has some issues going on, they'll also help to pull that rate down for that group. It's an unusual way to do it, but it seems to work really well for us and for most cities.
What kind of insurance are we talking about? What
this is medical.
Medical?
It's medical, and it's through Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you're with the largest network.
With the what network?
It's a Blue Access network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's their largest network. You can go anywhere in the country, and as long as they accept Blue Cross Blue Shield of that state, you're in network.
Now, do you also administer the HSAs and HRAs?
No, that is done by a local third-party administrator. I believe you all use BMS.
Thank you.
BMS for the HRA and Benefit Wallet for the HSA.
I'm sorry, Laura, you cut out at the very beginning there. It's who does the HSA and HRA?
BMS, Benefit Marketing Solutions, they administer the HRA, which I believe 8 of our employees are enrolled on, and then we have an HSA, which is administered by Benefit Wallet.
Okay, going back to our medical insurance. We have it on full-time employees. Is there any difference in the premium for those who are on Medicare as for those who are not?
No, there is not, because you're part of an association. Medicare, along with the Department of Insurance and all the federal guidelines, it seems that the Blue Cross Blue Shield policy will be primary and Medicare will be secondary. I can tell you your doctors are going to like that better because they're going to get paid faster and they're going to get paid more by going with the Blue Cross Blue Shield primary.
So when does Medicare kick in?
Medicare would kick in after Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
Most plans have Medicare, once you become eligible, kick in first, and then the insurance plan becomes a supplement to that.
It depends on your policy and the size of your group, and the reason that you're on Medicare. For the size of your all's group, if you were direct with Anthem, yes, Medicare would be primary. But because you're part of a health association, Medicare becomes secondary and Anthem is primary, unless you're on Medicare because of renal failure.
Okay.
And that would be the only way Medicare would be primary, is if it was due to renal failure.
So if you were on dialysis, huh?
Yes. And there's a certain time limit you have to have been in renal failure before Medicare will be primary. I believe it's 2 years, or I'm not sure if it's 2 years or 2.5 years.
You indicated it's to the benefit of the employee to have the Blue Cross Blue Shield primary, Medicare secondary. Flip that around, is there any advantage to the city that have Medicare primary, Blue Cross secondary?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know of any benefits. With the policy with us, you could not do that. I know that billing Medicare is not the easiest thing, and it has a tendency
You mean
to.
no as in there's no advantage, or no, there's no advantage because you don't have a policy that works that way?
Well, both. Part of it is no, we can't do that through our association. But second of all, I mean, I don't know what it would save, if it would save you anything premium-wise, because when you came out of the association, you would then have to be rated based on the state of Kentucky's benefits for your area, and that's what they call community-based rating. So they're going to take a huge section of Kentucky, and they're going to figure out where you fit in that group, and they would set your rates based on that.
Okay,
And Kentucky's not known. I'm sorry?
Thank you for the explanation.
I think
And we
part
all
of
know
the
Kentucky's
question,
not the healthiest.
I think part of the question comes from the fact that the annual premium for those who are over 65 in the current policy we have with you is higher than what people tend to be paying for Medicare supplementary policies. And I think that's where the question's coming from.
Yes, they would be, because Medicare would be primary there. That is going to be a less amount, because your supplement won't pay unless Medicare pays. Whereas this plan pays and then Medicare pays secondary. So if a doctor does billing incorrectly and files it with Medicare and it denies it, then their supplement will not have to pay. So there's a lot that they don't have to pay with a supplement that you would with a primary policy.
Could you give us an example?
I'm not even sure how to do that. You have an employee that goes to the doctor, and doctor submits a bill to Medicare, and they use a wrong code, wrong wording, wrong anything, and Medicare denies it, and they have a supplement insurance. A supplement insurance automatically denies it also, because Medicare denied it. They don't even look at the bill. They just go based by what Medicare said. But with Anthem, it's going to go in when the bill's sent in. If it's denied, the doctor, which would hardly ever happen, if something happens there, they'll get resubmitted. Anthem will pay first, and then it'll go to Medicare. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that Medicare isn't going to actually pay anything additional, because the Anthem's already paid more than Medicare would pay. That makes sense?
Yes. What is the current deductible?
Right now, it is for an individual, it's $2,800. And if you're carrying more than just yourself, each person in your family has $2,800, but won't pay more than a maximum of $5,600 for the family. And nothing other than preventative is paid before the employee pays that first $2,800 out of pocket.
Say that again.
Nothing will be paid by Anthem other than preventative until that employee pays the first $2,800 out of pocket.
Thank you.
This is considered a high deductible health plan.
And that deductible would normally come out of an HSA, correct?
Yes, it would be funded with an HSA or an HRA, yes.
So when you said only preventative care would be paid for before the full $2,800 or $5,600 deductible was met, what would you all consider to be preventative?
That's based on the AMA guidelines. The Doctors Association sets that up. It's going to be your shots that children have to get, the chicken pox shots that you get for adults. I can't think what that virus is called now. Shingles. That shot is considered preventative. Your annual checkups for women, your PAPs, your MAMs for men, for PSA tests. As long as they bill those as preventative, there is no cost to your employees. And that's part of the Healthcare Reform Act.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you carry our life insurance?
Yes, we do. We have it through Standard Life Insurance. You have $30,000 life, and then an additional $30,000 for accidental death or dismemberment.
On whom do you carry all of that?
It was all full-time employees.
Is it contributory at all?
No, that's paid by the city.
Do you carry our dental?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We'd be glad to give you a quote if you'd like it, though.
So the life insurance is 30,000 per full-time employee, not spouses or family or,
No, it's just,
okay,
correct, just full-time employee.
okay. And the city
We
pays,
can provide different quotes. Yes, the city pays 100%, yes.
and the city pays 100% of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Anthem coverage.
I don't know if the employees contribute anything on that or not.
The city pays 100% for employees, and then for anybody who adds dependents, it's split 50-50.
So we pay 100% of the employees' health insurance and 50% for the spouse and or family health insurance.
That's right.
Okay. And how is that, how do we handle that financially? Because I'm having trouble seeing in the budget numbers where that's paid by the city for the people as opposed to where is the money coming in and then going out for family members?
I think I can answer that. On page 4, for example, if you look at, say, the mayor right across the top, personal health insurance, isn't that what we pay per year for the mayor? If you
Yes.
Far right
Yes,
column.
that's right. And the same amount would be deducted from the mayor's paycheck.
I'm sorry, we missed that, Laura.
Page 4 that Harold referred to, that 27, 23, 22, that's what the city would pay over the course of the year for his dependent health care coverage. That same amount would be deducted from his paycheck over the course of a year.
And where do we show that contribution?
It would be taken out of his base pay.
Right, but where do we show that money coming into the city?
I really don't know how to answer that question. And I mean, it's reflected in the accounting reports, but if you're looking for it here in the workbook, it's not there. It's, as I said, it's taken out of his base pay.
But it doesn't reduce his base pay.
Yes, it does. Because he's reimbursing the city from it.
Not from his base pay.
No.
Yes, it is.
Every
He actually earns.
every 2 weeks, when I get my statement of what's been withheld from my pay, that appears.
We understand that, but what we're not seeing is where that amount is coming into the city as an income or as a reimbursement for an expenditure. Am I saying that the way you, okay.
Or a credit. A credit towards the bill.
It's not going to be here in this workbook, but it is in the accounting reports, in the bookkeeping.
Okay, could you tell me, for example, in the monthly reports, is it in there?
I don't have one in front of me, but it's gonna be, if you look in the salaries and benefits section. Because probably what you'll see in salaries is there'll be, deductions for paychecks and then credits. That will be, various reimbursements taken out of paychecks.
Okay, I guess I'll have to have you aim me in a direction, because I am not
Well,
seeing that.
the budget, on page 3, the budget for salaries shows is 175. And base pay shows 175. It doesn't, so you're not messing, nobody messes with the base pay. Base pay is best base pay, period. There are deductions beyond it. I mean, FICA, the employees portion of that needs to be shown as something taken away from
No,
their check, not what's on the check.
With FICA, it's not the same as this. The employee's contribution to FICA goes directly to the federal government,
Oh, I understand that.
which is not what we're talking about with the
But
insurance.
it is a deduction on your check.
Oh,
From
absolutely.
your salary or whatever your monthly
But
is.
this is actually a reimbursement. And we're not seeing,
Right, okay.
I don't even see it in the monthly, I mean, I'm not saying it's not there, I just
Okay.
don't see it.
Got
Okay, do we have any more questions for Heidi?
Well, how does this relate, to the police, also to the police, the same questions would arise.
But they tend to arise not in regard to the Blue Cross Blue Shield, they tend to arise in regard to the HRA and the HS. And we don't have somebody here who can talk to that.
Well, the answers would be the same.
No, they're not the same.
On life insurance,
No,
Well,
the
life
health,
insurance.
the HRA and the HSAs, those are not the same as life insurance.
oh, I understand.
The issues are not the same.
The issues are not the same, correct. I'm just saying, your health insurance response that Heidi has given us, the response you've given us carries over to the police health insurance also, correct?
If you're covering police on there, yes. And I'd be glad to try to answer any questions I can about the HSA and HRA.
Explain for me, because I'm familiar with an HSA, not as familiar with the HRA. Do some employees have one and some employees have the other, or do they have both?
You can't legally have both. You're either going to have a health savings account, the HSA, or a health reimbursement account, an HRA. The health savings account has guidelines set in place by the IRS, and the HRA has less guidelines set in place, and the IRS doesn't care about it.
Our police
The IRS
are
is very-
HSAs. No, they're HRA.
So the police are HRA, the remaining staff are HSA?
We have one police officer who's on the HSA, and then all of the others are on the HRA.
Okay.
The HRA funds, if a person doesn't use it, would roll back to the city, where the HSA fund is like self-funding the first part of your deductible, that $2,800. You're giving them that money to negotiate and to work out what they can with Anthem's help to make sure they get the best care they can. It's kind of putting them back in the driver's seat. Instead of giving it to Anthem, you're giving it to your employees to use for their health benefits.
Okay, so they either have HSA or HRA, one or the other, and basically the amount, and this is probably more for Laura and the mayor, the amount that we vote on to give them is basically to cover the deductible.
Minus
Yes.
400, looks like.
Okay, minus 400 then, okay.
We have a similar thing at the fire department, and how it works is if I get a bill for $5,000 or whatever, the bill is gonna be at the most, like 20, what did you say our max was?
Well, it says
2,800?
2,800, yeah.
I would pay that to the doctor, 2,800, and I would submit EOBs directly to BMS, and they would give me a check for 2,400. So ultimately, I'm out of pocket 400. Is that correct?
Yes.
Situation. Okay. So essentially, an employee's cost is going to be $400.
So the questions then arise as to how much you're paying for this kind of a benefit.
This
I
service.
used to self-insure my own employees, period, because having somebody administer it was gonna be another cost. And then the other thing is that with the other type of account from the one that you've got, the reason the IRS is so involved is because components of it are taxable. And then the question becomes, do these carry over from year to year? What happens if an employee doesn't spend it? Because very often, if you have an employee who's young and healthy, they don't. So those, it almost sounds like we need to have somebody come talk to those issues with us at one of our future meetings.
But that is a BMS issue.
Or the other,
Yeah.
whatever the other accounting.
Yeah.
But yes, not Heidi is what you're saying. Right, great. Do we have any more questions of Heidi?
I don't.
Heidi, we want to thank you very much. It's been very helpful.
Anytime you have questions, please just give me a call. Laura has my number. I'm always available.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Question, if anyone has the answer to this one. So we're getting this insurance through Kentucky League of Cities as part of their association rate and program. Do we have the option, since our employees participate in the state and retirement, the county employees retirement program? Can we participate in their group health insurance?
Would that be beneficial?
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, could we do that, and would it save us money if we did?
I don't know if we've looked into that. We have not always gone with KLC since I've been on the council. And the last time I believe Todd Everly was the mayor, looked into a variety of different things. I have no clue if what you're talking about was looked into. And this was a better deal than what we've been paying on our own through local brokers.
Okay.
So
A lot of the police officers are already in the state retirement system as a part of their regular retirement packages from LMPD. So we are not in the system that Heidi referred to.
Oh.
We are not in the KLC. With the exception of once you turn 65, and Laura can interject here because Mike Thomas just turned 65. And he had to go back on the city's system. Is that correct, Laura?
That is correct, back in
Okay,
January.
but prior to that, the ones that all retired from LMPD, they all still get their health care insurance through the state plan, which is the
Okay.
cheaper plan that you were
Plan, yeah.
referring to. And it's a different
So-
system altogether. So we have a number of employees. There's what, 7 full-time police officers upstairs, and 5 that still get their retirement through the state.
So the
And then the other
premiums
2,
for them-
Jim, I'm sorry.
The premiums for them are different from the ones that we're paying on the administrative employees. Is that correct?
You're not paying any premiums at all.
Yeah, we don't,
Yeah, you're
we
not,
don't
that's,
pay 'cause-
that's why we went on contract. The year-to-year contract for those 5 people is when that law was passed about, I guess it's been 4 years now. That's one of the reasons why I went to that, is because it saved you all from having to pay that premium every year. Prior to that, even for the retiree, even though they couldn't get a lot of the retirement benefits and things like that of a second retirement, because that, that ship had sailed. But you still had to reimburse the state for their health care. Like when I first came here, you all had to reimburse the state. But when that law passed and we went contract year to year, you no longer have to do that. So by me doing that, that saved you probably $7,000 or $8,000 per person just for the healthcare, let alone the retirement benefit.
The retirement benefit that you've got in terms of healthcare, does that have a deductible?
No, not really.
Then why are we paying for HSAs or HRAs if the purpose of those is to pick up deductibles?
Because it picks up all your, we have like doctor visits, all those deductibles and things like that. We have emergency room deductibles. Yeah, we do have all that. And then the prescription costs and everything like that are outrageous.
So really, it's not deductibles so much as, in your case, it's co-pays.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
co-pays are pretty high.
You said it terminates at age 65.
Well, then you go back to, because Medicare kicks in, and then the state makes you mandatorily take the Medicare option. It's actually in litigation right now, and they will win, and there'll be a point where you will no longer pay for lifetime. They've already had some rulings right now that all appear to be favorable to that, because it basically, the state law said that you have to provide them, the retirees, that insurance. And then there was some squirrely ruling that came across that said at age 65, they get to bump you for a while. Well, they knew that that was wrong. And so there's been some preliminary hearings that all look favorable to the retiree. And so they believe that within a year or so that those rulings will come out, and that the state will have to continue to pick up that healthcare cost. So at that point, what it'll be will just be a supplement. You'll get Medicare, and then the state will pay for your supplement, which is what they've been doing all along. This was only a recent occurrence under Bevin that changed.
Yeah, because when I became of age for Medicare,
Okay.
I think you have to pay your Medicare bill. And that then they will pay if you have full retirement benefits, they pay for your supplement. Or you can do an Advantage plan, and they pay all of that, which includes Part D. The supplement does not include it. And that's what I was asking is, you know, would it be in the long run cheaper for us and better for the employees, because the deductibles, the co-pays, those kinds of things that I have are relatively small compared to what we're looking at here. So that's why I asked it, would that be a better deal for us and the employees both? Laura, has anybody ever looked into that to your knowledge or recently?
Not to my knowledge, but I'm wondering, how would this even work? Wouldn't you have to be a retiree to participate in the retirement health plan?
Well, no, because they also offer health plans for city employees, for county, like when we were at the airport, when I was at the school board, both. We had our health insurance through the state plan for, depending on whether you were, you know, Kentucky teacher retirement or county employee retirement or Kentucky employee retirement. I mean, they've got several different systems, but they're all state funded health insurance systems for current working employees, which is a little different. Once you retire, you go into KTRS, Kentucky, you know, the retirees program. So I'm just wondering if we changed for people still working and used the state system rather than the Kentucky League of Cities system, would we save money as a city, but would we also save money for the employees and streamline the process for them?
Right. I don't know, and I don't know that if anybody's looked into it.
Laura, I have a question for you for the SAHRA, $2,400 per person for a full-time employee. If that person doesn't use all of it or say any of it, where does that $2,400 go?
If it's the HSA, it stays in that account. And
Over to next year, the following year?
well, it does roll over. If it doesn't all get spent, it rolls over. A little bit is taken out every month for maintenance fees by the administrator. But it just stays there until it's spent.
Okay.
The HRA rolls over as well, but at the time that you leave, you get none of that money. So even if you had, say, $8,000 or $9,000, the day you walk out the door, you get zero.
Correct.
You get nothing. That's with an HRA. With an HSA, because you actually, the employee, contribute some to that, and there's a tax break or something. At the time they leave, they can take that money with them. Because the employee actually contributes to that. They get to take the money with you. HRA, you do not.
How does the employee contribute?
It's done payroll deduction.
You can
See,
elect the amount
it's
you
not
want.
showing
You can elect the
here.
amount.
That's why we're asking.
Yeah, actually, employee.
Mary Ann is the only one that would contribute.
Right, employee contributions to the HSA are entirely voluntary and the city is not involved in that in any way. With the HSA, if you're separated from employment from the city and you still have money in your HSA, you can continue to use it for medical expenses, approved medical expenses. If you use it for something else, you have to pay tax on it. It becomes reportable as income at that point.
So even if you terminated, you could still use it for medical.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
What is the reason that we're increasing the budget by $1,000 in that line item?
Could you be more specific?
Yeah, item 5116, the previous budget was 3,800, now it's 4,800.
Right, that's because there are two administrative employees who receive the HSA, that's me and the mayor. And we are asking for every employee who has the HSA or HRA for an additional $500 contribution this year to increase it from $1,900 to $2,400 per employee.
And that's all paid by the city
Yes,
in the HSA?
yes. Now, this is just administrative. That 4,800, that's just for me and the mayor.
So what, you said something though about, was it 1,900? Somebody gets,
Right, 1,900 is what we each got this year. So that's why you see 3,800 in the column for this year, 1,900 for me, 1,900 for the mayor.
probably on the wrong page for you, wait a minute.
Page 3.
Right.
Yeah, and if you go to page 8, I see what you're seeing. So on page 8, the police benefits, so 6116, HSA, HRA. Last year was 13.3. This year requesting 19.2. Correct?
That's right.
Police increased to 2,400. Got it.
And then Public Works, theirs is on page 11.
Yep.
Besides asking them because the deductibles have changed, do we have employees that are using that amount?
Oh, yes, we have some employees where that money is spent by October.
And mine, for the example, for this year was used up months ago.
Well, I can understand that, but I'm thinking about some of our younger, healthier employees. It's used on the employee only, is that correct? Not the family?
Well, the employee can use it to pay their family's medical bills.
can use it on
Yeah, they're given a debit card.
eyeglasses and stuff like that.
And what does it cost us to have this program with the two carriers that we've got?
There are various administrative fees involved. I would say the total cost to the city, I'm guessing it's under $1,000. I don't have an exact number in front of me.
And
And
that
that's
would
for both of them, yeah.
from both of them. Okay.
What'd you say the amount was? I'm sorry.
I'm guessing around $1,000.
Okay.
I know one of them, there's a $150 renewal fee and then a monthly administrative fee based on how many employees are enrolled in it. But I think over the course of the year, it ends up being about $1,000.
Okay. Guys, I gotta apologize. I have to leave, but I'll try to get on, join you guys virtually.
Thank you, Harold.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess the only question I've got is, do you have quickly a total of how many how many total number of employees are on an HRA? How many total number of employees are on an HSA?
It's 8 are on the HRA and 6 are on the HSA.
Thank you.
If you want a $500 increase on both for all full-time employees.
I'm sorry, Don, could you repeat that?
If you want a $500 increase on both for all full-time employees.
Yes.
Just on the administrative and legislative. Now, to make sure I'm correct, then on the police page would show any of the police, and on the maintenance department page would show Ron and Mike and Ron's staff, right?
Right. It's 500 per employee increase that we're asking.
So it'd be roughly $7,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a $7,000 increase over last year?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's $7,000 increase for everyone,
Total.
all full-time employees.
Right. There's 14 employees, it's $500 an employee.
Need a little explanation. You know, a health savings account is contributory by the individual. Is that not correct?
They'll voluntarily contributory, only if they want to contribute. This amount of money we're contributing, anything over and above that is voluntary.
And it's all tax-free to the individual.
It is, as long as they spend it on approved medical expenses. If they use it to buy tickets to a movie theater or something, then they have to report it as income.
How do they do that? If it's a card, doesn't it say that it's for medical expenses, or is it a charge card?
It looks like an ordinary Visa card.
Ah,
What's the rationale for the $500 per employee increase?
Because when we first started doing this, the deductible was much lower than it is now. And seeing as deductible is now $2,800, we were hoping to get a little bit more to help come closer to meeting that.
That was what?
I'm sorry?
2,800.
2,800.
And right now, how much are each one of the cards?
1,900 per employee.
1,900. So some employees may be incurring up to $900 cost a year for the medical.
Yes.
But if they don't, they can roll it over.
Yes.
I didn't think we could roll over an HSA. Didn't you? Didn't they?
so the ones that have rolled it over may not need this $500. Do we have any clue how many employees? Do we have any clue how many employees would actually benefit from this 500? In other words, how many are in need of getting 500, I guess?
No idea. That's personal information.
Do you know how much? Do you know? We must know how much we were spending on it, since it's city money.
Well, I know the city contributes the 1,900 every year, but after that, it's up to the employees' management.
We don't have a method to monitor how much of the money that the city allocates to the employee for this purpose. There is no accounting for how much is generally used or how much is in their account.
Randy, you're cut. We don't track that.
So theoretically, the city can contribute annually, whatever, $1,900 per individual, and a healthy individual can keep carrying that on ad infinitum and have a nice little nest egg when they leave, I mean, theoretically.
Laura, I do have a
One of them,
question.
but not the other. When the police use it, you can't do that.
Right. Laura, this is Chief. I have a question. When someone leaves with an HRA and they haven't used the money, obviously you can't take it with you. Does BMS reimburse the city with that balance because that money's never used and it was put into the account by the city? Say, for example, you had $5,000. Would the city ever get that back, or do you know?
I have never seen any indication of that. And I don't know if that means that it's not something that's ever actually come up or what.
Are employees having a hard time with this? Coming up
It
with the
depends on whether,
$900?
it depends on whether.
Well, I
they're
will
healthy
tell
or
you
not.
that up until the last 2 years, I've spent the $1,900 every year. Every year that I've had it, up until the last 2 years, and this is the first year that I have a carryover balance.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, I know
And
some
my
employees
kids are
spend-
grown and out of the house, so if you've got smaller kids, of course, I think we only have one now left with a child at home. And she would have, I mean, she just had knee surgery and other stuff, so she's way over on her expenditures. She's paying $300 a month for a piece of equipment to rehab her knee. So she's been in rehab for months. Insurance wouldn't cover it.
Laura, in the event that somebody, as you said, bought tickets with it and it became taxable, who reports that to the IRS?
That's only an HSA.
The administrator reports it, and then a report is also sent to the employee. I get one every year.
What is the report? What items does it report? Just non-medical related, or medical related and non-medical related?
I'm sorry, Frank, if you're speaking to me, I can't hear you.
I guess the question, Laura, is,
Here it
do-
is. No,
is
my
it,
mic was off.
does it break it down between medical and non-medical?
Well,
How detailed is
right.
it?
I've never tried to use my card for non-medical expenses. So the report I get says distributions for tax year 2019 or whatever, and the total amount of money from my card that I spent.
And I've never used mine for anything other than medical, and it ran out of money several months ago.
Maybe it would help if maybe at our next meeting, we could have somebody come from the HRA, HSA, and just answer some of these questions.
I will tell you that they run, at least as far as the HRA goes, they run a pretty taut ship because they will question a number of your transactions throughout the year. And you have to provide them with written documentation that you have to send in. For example, the glasses that I have on that I purchased under the HRA, and I went to my regular doctor, they questioned that purchase because they're expensive. I had to go back and I had to show them every little piece. I
That they
faxed
weren't
it all
fashion
in.
glasses, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I had to send it all in. I mean, because the things cost, even with, and I have a vision insurance that I buy on the side from the my retiree insurance, and I still had to pay like $400 for glasses. And so they questioned that, so I had to send in all the documentation. If you go to a new doctor that they haven't seen before, occasionally they'll question that, just the copay on the doctor.
That's good.
So.
I have not had that many.
But still, it seems like there's a lot of latitude here on both of those. in terms of expenditures.
Only within the defined area of what is covered by law or by a plan. Because we had one of those at the airport before I retired. And the chief is right. They question, they hold you to the letter of the law as to the parameters. And when they say you want documentation, you have to provide dated, signed, cash register receipts. And it had to enumerate on it. That's why you typically have to go to your larger Walgreens, CVS, and say your sign of pharmacy because they wanted something to show item, quantity, the amount, exactly what it was. Certain over-the-counter things like aspirin or whatever that would also qualify for certain things, but they had to specify all of that and quantity, unit quantity, that kind of thing. So it sounds like if we have questions, they're HSA related, not HRA related.
I'll see what I can do. I've never actually.
That $1,900 figure has been the same since I got here 8.5 years ago. That's not been changed.
Well, I
from day
understand.
one. Yeah.
I understand. I'm trying to find the compelling need versus it's nice to do. I understand it's been that way, but inflation hasn't been overwhelming. I'd just like to understand if there's some compelling need. If there's some compelling need, that's one thing.
Well, if Laura said she'd try to get the HSA person to come and be at our next meeting, so we could ask some of these questions. Well, except that it's not taxable. That's the big difference. Yeah, we up the salary also. Yeah. Where shall we go next? I don't think we're anywhere near there. We haven't done salaries first. Yeah, well, and I'm not sure I understand the distinction on administrative and salaries, line 5119 and 5120. It's the salaries and the legislative, and then FICA and legislative. What's the distinction for legislative? Oh, okay, that's for council. Yes. I think it would help if you would tell us how you came up with a salary increase and how you applied it, and roughly what the total for the entire city is. Laura. Thank you.
Well, I think the mayor should tackle this one.
It's basically a cost of living figure. I'm looking for the page.
Page 15.
I'm only on page 9. That's the police. That's basically a 2.5% increase for Dirksen and McGovern and our accountant Marinari. It's basically just the cost of living increase. And Laura's is 2.25. I'm not sure why she cut herself 1/4% short, but
We tried to give the higher increases to lower paid employees.
Okay, but you're talking cost of living, and yet this is higher than the consumer price index. How did you come up with this number?
well, these people work very hard for the city and they're essential to the city. And it just seemed to me that they deserved a 2.5% increase. This is my proposal. I mean, I basically passed the baton to the council and they can do what they want with it.
So over to the side on page 15, it says 2020 SSA COLA 1.
I can't hear you.
Okay, on page 15, over to the side, beyond the graph, it says 2020 SSA COLA 1.6%. So is that the rate that the feds are basically saying is the cost of living? Social. That they're estimating as the federal government? That's the Social Security increase. Those of us who are old don't get 2.5%. But is that, so that's Social Security, yes, but does that mirror what the federal government would say is basically the cost of living increase for last year?
It's my understanding that the Social Security cost of living figure excludes a number of things, including things like food. It's not a realistic figure. It's a figure designed to help the government keep the Social Security as low as possible.
Okay, I guess the crux of the question is, we have 2.50 or 2.25%. So is there some basis that the federal government would set that would benchmark against that? So we would know, well, we were right on that amount, or we're above that amount, or we're below that amount, or is there congressional business budget office or Department of Labor or somebody that sets not just Social Security, that's its own thing, but a general across the board cost of living increase, just like the IRS will increase or decrease what your mileage is. If you get reimbursed for mileage, there's a maximum that people can be reimbursed without it being taxable. Is there a comparable number for cost of living that the federal government produces that we can benchmark against this number for some idea of where we are on that scale?
I don't know off the top of my head. We can try to find out.
There was not any available at the time we first put this together. The 1.6% was all I could find.
Okay.
Actually, there's a whole bunch of them on Google, and the interesting thing is, depending on what time frame you take, you'll get a very different number. Because of the COVID-19, it's actually going down right now, whereas it wasn't before this started in March.
So they're saying the cost of living has gone down since COVID-19?
Well, they're saying the inflation rate has reduced.
And CPI,
The
yeah.
inflation rate has reduced.
Well, the consumer price index.
Okay.
And as far as the total increase, if you add up all the salary increases, I just did a quick calculation and I come with 5,000.
And that's for everybody, all the police, the maintenance, general.
That's everybody.
Okay.
If you actually look, the police department, even with everybody getting a pay raise, theirs goes down a couple thousand, and that's because one of their part-time employees is going even more part-time.
Right, but it looks like the maintenance alone is 5,000. And it looks like
Right, administrators about
administrators is
2,300.
2.
Yeah. And then you subtract a $2,000 reduction in the police.
Laura, I'm looking, I added salaries and benefits for the past year has been 1.346. And what's in the budget is 1.4, which is $54,000 increase, which is there's a 4% increase in salary and benefits in this budget over past year.
Probably the biggest portion of that is the requested HSA HRA increase because the SERS contribution remains flat. The FICA payment remains flat. The health insurance premium actually went down by less than 1%, but still.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
But year over year, the increase in salary cost is 4%. And that's a little bit significant. If you take the rule of 72, it says you keep going up 4% every year, in 18 years, you will double your cost.
That's why secretaries at GE retired as millionaires.
They retire early.
Actually, the other issue that comes up with salaries is, I hate to say this, but do we need all of these positions? Is this the most practical way of assigning the duties that need to get performed by the city?
Now, are you talking about the administrative
Just in general.
budget or total
Just
budget?
Totally in general.
Well, I have a question regarding the Mariani issue. We get monthly reports that are, I'd like to know what that position is and what those duties are.
Maybe Laura could summarize the different accounting positions.
I sent an email with that.
I know you did. That's why I know you can summarize it.
He handles all of our daily bookkeeping. He receives the bills. He records them in QuickBooks. He prepares the checks. He prepares our deposits, takes them to the bank. He runs reports as needed, sends them to you all, and he coordinates with Kelly King in preparing the financial reports. He also, because we have a lot of automatic deposits and withdrawals in our bank accounts, he makes sure those are connected to the QuickBooks journal.
Why? Seems to me we have three separate entities dealing with our finances: the auditor, Kelly King, the bookkeeper, and now we have another individual in-house doing essentially the same thing. I've never been able to understand the distinctions, so maybe you can help me.
They're not doing essentially the same thing. What Kelly King does is payroll and all the tax reporting that's connected to that and the monthly reports. So they take what Len does and prepares the financial reports from them. It's not the same thing.
We have, to Sandra's comment, we have two other part-time people. We have, of course, you there that deal with the numbers and the money that we spend in this city. And
No, we don't. We have one part-time person.
One part-time person.
One part-time person who deals with the numbers. That's Lynn, nobody else.
But to Sandra's comments, if you look at if you made a list of chores that need to be accomplished on a daily basis, could the skill sets be reapportioned such that some of these might show that we're overstaffed?
Let me ask that another way, Laura. I understand that the auditor needs to be independent and separate. What we have Lynn doing bookkeeping, who I understand is a CPA, which is certainly a step up from the skill set we've had in the past. And then we have Kelly King that does payroll, tax reporting, and monthly reports, but we're using the QuickBooks or Quicken system, which is very, very user-friendly and pretty easy to handle. Would it be possible that instead of having Kelly King doing the payroll and the tax reporting, have Lynn, since Lynn's a CPA, handle that function? And since Lynn also works with the QuickBooks and is getting all the bills and paying the bills, being able to actually generate those monthly reports himself.
You do not want payroll handled in-house. That has to be done out of house. It's for everybody's safety.
Okay.
You don't want an employee processing other employees' payroll.
Or even his own paycheck. How much per year are we paying for these three functions? We've got Lynn Mariani in front of us, and it looks like he's running us $21,000 a year. How much are we paying to Kelly King, and how much are we paying to the auditor?
The auditor, their bill for the 2019 audit was just under 8,000. And
say that again?
Yeah, repeat. You broke up there.
Just under 8,000.
Okay, for the auditor.
And Kelly King, theirs is just under 16. Well, this year it's just under 16,000, but we had some extra expenses related to the transition. A normal year it would cost us about 15.
Well, let me ask it this way. No, you make a very good point there. Thank you. I appreciate that it is in our best interest that we have the payroll and the tax reporting handled out of house. So what about this? Just what if instead of having a bookkeeper like Lynn in-house, that we actually just transferred those functions to Kelly King?
Because that's what we did with MCM for years, and it turned out to be a disaster. Not that I don't like him, Kelly King, but I don't want to go through that again.
Okay, I'm
Describe
new.
the disaster.
Yeah, I'm
But isn't that incompetence? I mean, wasn't that incompetence?
I mean, wasn't that a bad vendor rather than a bad assignment of responsibility?
Yeah, I understand.
So all told, we're paying approximately $35,000 for all of our accounting services.
Well,
I think
when
you
we
have to
had-
treat the auditor separate and different, though. That is not something that we can fold in with either of the other two.
You're right
Yes,
about
take the
that.
total.
Yeah.
When we had that bigger accounting firm doing everything, what did they cost?
It was around 35,000.
So I thought.
So there really was not a savings because that was a few years ago. And so now we're looking at 38. And so it's about the same then.
But it wasn't Kelly King, right?
No.
No.
We had to switch accountants anyway, because they were not paying much attention to the city of Prospect. They were late with their monthly reports. We call them on the phone, we couldn't get any response, so we had to get rid of them. So we had to go to a different accounting company.
Well, that makes sense. But is it appropriate that we ask Kelly and King just what they would charge to handle what we're describing?
Well, what would you want them not to do that they're doing?
Well, what if they assume the responsibilities that Lynn has? So that they served our bookkeeper function in addition to handling the payroll, the tax reporting, and the monthly reports.
Well, Laura and I both like having an in-house bookkeeper, Len Marinari, better, because he's right there, and having an accounting firm located somewhere else. We much prefer that.
But he's only here, how many days a week is he here present?
3 days.
How many, 2?
I think 3, 2 or 3.
2, but an account, bookkeeping firm would be available 5 days. I mean, you know, if he's not here, you can't ask a question.
They're not really available 5 days, especially when they don't answer the phone.
Well, you might consider, if we ask Kelly King to do it, they would probably charge us a monthly retainer fee, whereas Len just charges us for the hours he works. And most weeks he works at most 10 hours.
Oh, so he's not on a monthly retainer?
No, Len's paid hourly.
Laura, how much does he charge an hour?
We pay him a little over $19 an hour right now.
You know what? That's not bad for a book.
Mm-mm. No, that's
Not at
not.
all.
But and then of course the other question is, could you reduce his hours by reducing something like the reports, which are sent out now? Sandra and I have a little difference of opinion on these things, but to me they're useless because the Kelly King gives us the same financial oversight.
Well, except that Kelly King gives us all a summary, which if there's specific information, it's not available, whereas his are. The other issue I've got in regard to that is when I look at the people at the front desk, and I know you've heard me say this, at least one of them, the bulk of her working time, she's reading fiction. And I can't help thinking that paying taxpayer money for somebody to read books is maybe not the best use of taxpayer dollars. Have we ever given thought to making the person at the front desk only there during the hours, which we have a certain, I guess I have no feel for the number of phone calls or other things that they're taking. All I see is the book reading. And as a taxpayer, I'm afraid that makes me very unhappy.
Laura, help me out with the duties of the ladies of the front desk. I know they handle the library ins and outs. I know they take all the phone calls. What else do they do?
Well, things have been different since the coronavirus thing, but I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to when we get calls or people coming into the front desk, whether it's for to talk to Mike or to talk to me or to talk to Ron or to somebody in the police department. There is no pattern to it. Actually, no, there is one pattern. Mondays are busy, Tuesdays are dead.
Like that. Do they keep logs? Could we take a look?
They do of their phone calls, yes.
So maybe we could take a look and see if there truly isn't any rhyme or reason, or if we could make one up. I really think there is plenty of work to do here, but I do see a lot of book reading.
So the ladies at the front desk are basically here to answer phones and direct people when they come in to whom here and where here they need to go to get their problem solved.
Yeah, and to direct the incoming phone calls to the appropriate person. Laura, me, Ron, whoever it is, the police. They're a receptionist.
Have we ever looked into putting in maybe an automated answering system that gives you prompts so that then you can either go straight to John, if we want you and we have your extension number, we can go straight to you, or you can go down a series of prompts that would reduce, I mean, it's not going to totally eliminate a reception because there always needs to be an option to speak with the person, but it could relieve some of the responsibility for phone calls and let people go directly to the folks that they need to or want to speak with, and maybe take some of the strain off the front desk.
What are you going to do about people who come in person?
And I
There's
think the
no
issue
log
is
for,
not,
there's no log for that.
Oh, they have a visitor's log. You sign in at the front desk, so we do have a visitor's log, don't we?
we
Well,
did
somebody
before we
comes-
shut
somebody-
down City Hall.
So what else do they do other than sign people in when we let people in City Hall, or
Well,
answer the
the
phone?
important thing in having them there is they make it possible for the rest of us to do our jobs. If there's not somebody at the front desk, then somebody always has to be listening out to run out, which kind of makes it hard to do the jobs that we're trying to do.
Okay.
This is Greg. This is Greg. I could see the benefit of having someone physically there. Is there work that they could be given, such as, for example, library work and other work to be more efficient use of their time? Is there work there that could be assigned to them?
Well, I've made them available for library work.
Or other things too?
Sandra, you can speak to that. What work do they do for the library?
They check books in and out.
Is there anything else
And
that they
that's
can
not
do?
new. They have done that for the last 20 years.
Yeah, and if there's nobody there, how are you going to handle that?
Is there anything else that they could do, Sandra?
They have shown no inclination to be able to do that, although I want to give them full credit. Right now, we have the capacity for people to call in and get curbside library books. I don't know how many people have availed themselves of that, although I do know one, and she is ecstatic that we are now providing that function.
One of the reasons I'm asking also is we did some training with the staff, and this has been several months ago now, trying to get them more familiar with our website. Because with Ron's demands for maintenance, there's a lot of just simple routine things that, you know, staff ought to be able to do because we have such a user-friendly site. But there didn't seem to, in fact, one of them just pretty much flat out said, I'm not interested, I don't want to be trained, and I'm not going to do it. The other one expressed some interest, but I think was a little nervous and maybe thought she needed more training, which is
Well,
fine.
help me out, Randy. What is it that this person didn't want to be trained on?
Well, just maintaining the calendar, updating, you know, meetings that are coming up, events, posting
Posting
information, you know, things about Arbor Fest, if we were having July 4th, putting information up, also making sure it all gets taken off in a timely manner. So, you know, notices, if, you know, you want a simple banner that you can run, okay, everybody be advised the water company's working in the eastbound lane of 42 through Prospect today, please slow down, that type of thing. So simple maintenance activities for the website and, you know, and that way also some of our committees could get better use of it. But they need a little training, and it's fairly simple training to be able to do those things, and then let, you know, Ron, who is much higher paid and has a lot more responsibilities, let him be concerned with the bigger issues, the security issues, the internet connectivity issues, the hardware operating issues, and let other people make sure that committee meetings get posted when they're over with, taken down, make sure that minutes get posted, taken down, those kinds of things, and take that strain off the rest of the staff.
Why don't you and I have a conversation about that? And if somebody doesn't want to do some work that needs to be done, then we might need to get somebody else. I just need to know about it.
Okay.
You know, John, I think maybe comes up all the time. We're not an executive function of the city. And that rests with the elected mayor. And kind of what I'm hearing is suggesting, is there an opportunity to improve efficiency? And, you know, maybe you guys, you and Ron and the chief could kick that around and say, hey, is there some things that the people at the front desk can do to take up work off of the chief or Ron or Laura? I remember Ann Sims. I think she played a large role in the city, but she also was in the front desk. We come down there and elaborate with us. But there's some agreement here that we're just suggesting, is there a way to improve the efficiency with what
I can hear almost everything you said.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I could hear almost everything you said.
Don, you've got to pull your mic all the way right up to your mouth. That's where Ron's saying we're losing you. We're losing you. There we go. Okay. Try again.
What I basically said, I think we're bouncing around something that's in your wheelhouse, which is the executive part of the city, and we're probing around to see, is there a way for you guys to be a little more efficient, and instead of us trying to tell you how to do that, why don't you get together with Laura and maybe Chief and Ron, and there are some things that we can do to be more efficient and allocate some work to people that appear to be underutilized.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but I still want to talk to Randy. She had some good ideas.
Okay.
In regard to the police, I know that you went to a full-time person over a part-time person when you had a vacancy this year. Could you give us a reason and why you did that?
Are we moving away from the administrator?
No, we're still on salaries. We haven't done anything other than salaries.
We converted 2 part-time slots into 1 full-time slot. And then it made it easier for scheduling purposes because that was on our afternoon shift. And that way, at least you have 1 person available for at least 5 days a week. Instead of juggling, it required less juggling because on the afternoon shift, it was manned solely with part-time workers. So this way we had 1 solid person, and then we would do fill-ins with the other part-timers, and it's actually worked out a lot better for us.
Better continuity.
Yes, it's made scheduling a lot easier, and we turned out we've had better coverage because now we are actually doing what is an overlap shift from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. on the days where we only have 1 person on the late shift. So we have coverage whereas before from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. there might be occasions where we would only have 1 officer on the street. Now, at least until that period of 3 a.m., not that there's a particularly busy time out here after 10 or 10 p.m., but at least we have more coverage out here. And if you have a 2-person run, at least you've got a backup with them. And so it's allowed us actually a lot more flexibility, believe it or not, with the 1 person than having the 2 part-timers. And that was the last person that we could hire under the contract, where where we didn't have to pay for health care and all of the other stuff. From this point forward, if we hire an additional full-timer, we would have to go back, because you can only have 5 on contract in a department of our size, unless it's another person that was on contract that left, because you can have 5 at one particular time for an agency of our size.
What was the name of that officer?
That we hired, David Gray. He was a lieutenant at one time with Louisville Metro, so he's an experienced guy. He's very good, very squared away. He was at one time, I think, in the military, the Guard, National Guard, one of those. So he's very squared away.
Yep.
So
Without
he's not going to
doubt,
cause us any problems.
the people, when people tell me what's important about our city, without any exception, the police comes first. That is really important to them. And I sit here and I watch television all day defunding polices, and I'm thinking, I cannot believe cities are thinking that way, because certainly Prospect is not that way.
Right. Well, we tried to hire the best that we could get, people that had spotless records in the past, that we're not hiring somebody else's baggage, and that these were people that we handpicked. We went to them. They didn't come to us. So we actually, once they became available, we made phone calls to them and said, is this a place where you'd be interested in working? So we've done things a little bit differently than the way some people have done it. And so far that's worked out pretty well for us. And we've hired people with fairly diverse backgrounds too. We've hired people with good investigative backgrounds, people with supervisory backgrounds, and things of that nature. So they can call upon each other for help. We have somebody that was a crime scene investigator for years. So we've got a scene that's been processed, or somebody to evaluate evidence. That's worked out well for us. So right now we have a pretty good mix.
Gee, in a perfect world, your world,
Right.
is this the right number of people to have, or should you have more or more part-time overlap, or are you looking, or part-time people looking for less work or more work?
It's hard to say. I'll tell you right now, everything's in flux with law enforcement right now. Well, this is even before all everything that's happened with COVID and everything right now. There's been a pretty decent transition. 3 years ago, I mean, everybody was looking for part-time work. Everybody was, but then there's been a transition away from law enforcement right now. They're having a heck of a time locally recruiting to get people, and also national. And nobody wants to work. And a lot of it locally, at least, has been because of what they've done with the benefit packages, the retirement packages, and things of that nature. For example, this past fall, when the Ironman competition came out here, I always work it's on that Sunday, and I tend to go around and talk to the different officers at the post. There was a young officer that was working on the corner in front of the Hunting Creek. He had the post out there, and I stopped and talked to him. A young officer, he and his wife just had a baby. His health care cost per month, because he was married and had a child, he had to pay $1,800 a month out of his paycheck to do it. At least one paycheck every month went just for his health care. He's already left Metro Police and went to work at U of L Police, where he's making $20,000 a year less in paycheck because they offered him health care and things like that. So he took a job that's basically, in terms of the pay, is probably one of the worst paying jobs in the state, just so he could get health care and everything. And they're not even in the retirement system. They're strictly a 401k. But it's everything right now is all about the benefit packages and law enforcement.
Well, do you need another space? Do you need another?
As we stand right now, I would say no. I think our staffing is good. I think our staffing is good.
Do you see any changes in your staffing?
I have not.
This year, coming year, this budget year?
No, unless we have something to do with, a physical problem or things of that nature. I don't anticipate anything changing within the next year. I've not caught wind of anything. Nobody's indicated to me one way or another that they may be leaving.
You wouldn't press for another individual just to ease up. You know,
Are you trying to spend money, Frank?
As it stands right,
Say, thank you, sir.
I mean, I'm being completely honest with you. As it stands right now, I don't anticipate everything. Now, if Metro goes to hell and things start moving their way east or whatever, then yeah, I would want to add somebody probably to supplement the afternoon shift, because that would be more likely where we would get it.
Chief, let me ask this because I want to make sure that I'm reading this right. The budget for salaries and benefits for police for 1920 budget was 795,800. And we're proposing for 2021, 837,904. So that is about a $42,000 increase in the coming year in the police salary and benefits. Am I reading that right?
That's what the numbers look like.
It's page 8.
Right. I see the page. I see
Okay.
I see the
But
numbers.
actually, if you go to page 15, it does the opposite. It literally goes down.
Okay, so let me get to page 15. So my question was going to be, because of the big jump this year, I'm assuming that's because we're taking 2 part-timers who basically get no benefits other than the required ones. And so we have to start paying into retirement and health insurance.
No, the guy that we hired full-timer is, no, the only thing that you would pay on him would be the HRA. On the full-timer, the one that was hired, you would pay the HRA on him. But you wouldn't have to pay for health care for him, and you wouldn't have to pay into the pension for him.
Actually, there's also the life insurance.
Okay, that's pretty low though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
Actually,
Okay.
Randy brings up an interesting point, because on page 8, the police salary and benefits for the current year are $763,160. If you go to page 15, they're $631,899. Next year, on page 8, they're $837,904. If you're on page 15, they're $629,811. I don't understand that.
Maybe workers' comp insurance, maybe.
No, they're all in there.
I mean, I'm just trying to come up with on page 8, the difference between the 1920 budget and the 2021 proposed budget and the $42,000 increase in the salary benefits section. But if we're only having to pay life insurance additionally and the HRA additionally, I'm trying to figure out.
Page 15 only has the salary.
Right, but what one of the components of page 8 goes that much higher? Probably the HSA and
The
HRA.
HSA, and also there was an increase in the health insurance for Mike Thomas, because we weren't previously having to pay for Mike Thomas, but since he turned 65, this is the one I was telling you about.
Okay, there's
And that's a $5,000 increase. We weren't paying
Okay.
for him, but we are now. But I would anticipate once that lawsuit gets settled, that we would no longer have to do that. But when that gets settled,
Okay.
Where is that? What line item?
Page
I don't
8.
know. Under 6115, the health insurance,
Oh, okay.
it goes from 10,276 to 15,327. That increase to 5, that's related to Mike Thomas,
Life insurance, health insurance.
health insurance. I'm sorry. I said
Yeah, you
life
went over
insurance.
65.
Okay.
Okay,
It's health insurance, I'm sorry.
So the CLEP pay goes up 4,000.
That's because that involves a full-time employee instead of part-timers.
Okay,
Only
but we get
full-time.
that back, right?
Correct.
And this is where we're
Okay.
gonna get the credit there.
Right.
for
That's
that.
why it was listed in two different ways. It was listed in
Okay.
income at the beginning, and then it's listed as a pay.
We're gonna move
But it's a
that,
zero.
we're gonna move that
It's a
to
zero
that
sum.
line item, so that should be a zero line item, so. that
Well, no, you need to have an amount. You can show it in 3 lines or something to get to zero,
Well, 2 lines,
but we
yeah.
need to know how much it is.
yes,
Mhm.
well, yes.
So the big increase of the 23,000 up here in 6111, again on page 8. From 606,000 for salaries this year and 629,000 for salaries next year, that $21,000 or $23,000 jump is the cost of living plus the cost of the additional full-time officer?
Well, there would be I don't know that the 2 salaries of the part-timers and that, I think that's usually. I think the salaries of the 2 part-timers versus the straight full-timer, that's usually about a wash. Maybe a little bit cheaper in salary.
So, well, I'm just looking at the numbers here, from
Right.
606,000 to
I think that's basically-
629,000.
I didn't do that math. I didn't put the raising there. But I believe that that's for the cost of living increase differences.
Okay, Laura, can you answer that question?
Actually, it isn't.
No.
I just did the math.
I'm not sure I understand what the question is.
Okay, on page 8, where it says police salaries and benefits,
Mhm,
6111 salaries.
mhm.
This year's current budget is almost 607,000. We're proposing almost 630,000 for the coming year, which is a $23,000 difference. Now, that's just the salary line item. The chief says that when you take 2 part-timers and convert them to a full-time, it's basically a wash. So what is the crux of the majority of the $23,000 increase in police salaries in that line item?
I don't
not-
know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, back on page 15, the police, just the salary, the police salaries, 1920 is 631,900. And on page 8, it's 606,900.
And actually, if you put in the roughly 2%, it's a little bit more than that. It would come up not to where we go from 568, 530, it would go to 579, 900. So we have got somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 that we're asking this question about.
That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to reconcile the significant differences there.
All I can tell you is that what's on page 8, the 1920 budget column, that's what was budgeted for this year. And then on page 15, in that 1920 column, those are actually the annual salaries that were set for each of those employees. Now, Gray came in mid-year. And that's just what that came to.
Well, you see the question though, Laura, on page 15, 1920 shows 631,900. And then with a 2% increase in 2021, it goes to 629,800. So 2% increase, and it actually goes down to that.
Except there's one part-time employee who's reducing his hours by half.
No, that's true, but that's the 631,899 on page 15 or 1920. If we come over to page 8, it isn't 600,000, it's 568,530.
Well, that's what's been spent so far.
That's year to date,
Yeah.
but the
It's
budget
still
is
lower, though.
606 now.
I know. We're still somewhere between 30 and 40,000. for these
Right,
45,
the
we've got a
568 is what's been spent so far. And the other thing is with the part-time employees, we base theirs on if they worked 1,040 hours over the course of the year. Not all of them will actually work all those hours.
Okay, I see, Bailey goes from 29,000
Yeah.
around 549, 1920, down to 15,000 in 2021.
Laura, you said that Gray,
Does that make
a
sense?
partial year. When was he hired, chief? Oh, okay. Chief, when did, Gray start?
December.
So
Yeah.
Could it
But
be-
we had two part-timers that were working up through November.
And their names aren't on this list?
Oh.
Because this is a projected budget.
No, this is 1920. This is the.
Well, that's part, yeah, that's, I
Yeah,
think,
they-
part of the crux of it there
Yeah,
is
that
we've,
could be.
we've not reported in 1920, the
It's
two
about
folks,
half a year.
yeah, the
So
two folks that were
the
part-time.
1920 is actually not correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that should be maybe 27,000, something like that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So you'd be closer to the 606.
Mhm.
Because they got Gray in there for this current year, they got Gray in at a full salary. of
For
54,000.
last year, when he
Or
wasn't
last-
here. Yes.
This current year, not last year. current.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
hear you.
So that would bring it closer to 606. I didn't get the number. Is that,
But
is that reasonable, Laura?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, but if
Yeah,
we
I do
have
think
great,
that is where one of the glitches are, because Gray was not here in, the beginning of the
So
fiscal year.
numerically, it's correct, but practically, it's not, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
but the fact that we do have Gray showing for all of 1920. But we
Or you were,
aren't,
well, that you were showing that
But
that
we're
was
not-
budgeted for all.
for-
of
yeah,
1920 and
but-
it wasn't.
but we're not showing on here the two part-timers that were here through November because they're not gonna be here in the coming year, right? So they're not on this
Right.
list. So that would still be a wash though, wouldn't it?
It's fairly close. It's actually cheaper in salary for the full-timer than two part-timers. Because if you look at the part-timers, they're roughly 30,
Well, then,
and then the full-timers like 55, something. So it's a little bit cheaper on the initial salary.
okay, so
Then
this,
you had the other stuff.
on page 15, and then this is inaccurate. Because not only do you have Gray's salary is incorrect, you should have the other two people in there with their salaries to make this correct.
Correct. I think we've got that.
What?
No, I think that we understand now that the numbers going forward are accurate.
The numbers going forward would be accurate. Yes.
I'd like us, because it's getting late, to hold. We've been talking about people and salaries. I'd like to hold maintenance for our next meeting because we're getting close to the time we wanted to adjourn. And it's probably not a topic that we can handle in 7.5 minutes.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Before you do, before you vote, do you want to set your next meeting now?
yes, thank you.
Good idea. Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, if you're going to have a special meeting, do you want to put the ad vote on?
Yes,
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 we do.
definitely.
Okay, how is Ron Cundiff will be on vacation. We could do it Tuesday, the 14th.
Of July,
Yes.
we can't do it any sooner than that? Wait that long.
He'll be back the 7th.
I'll be back the 7th.
Oh, so we could do it the 7th?
Mhm.
Okay.
Can we still do it?
I won't be here if you get.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a
Would you be here
Tuesday.
on Wednesday?
No, I'm on vacation.
You're on
11
vacation.
through the 18th.
Well, let me
But
ask
Tony
this.
Denham can be here. I mean,
Okay.
he will
Okay.
be working.
But if we're doing public works, chief doesn't.
Yeah, haven't we pretty
No.
much
But he
wrapped
he
up
will
the-
be
Well,
here
we've done
anyway.
salaries. We haven't done any of the other accoutrements.
I don't have any questions about the rest
Well,
of
but
it.
that we might. Frank wants to talk about. No, I think yeah, they want to
He can
come.
answer this.
No, there are.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so the 7th at 3 o'clock? Is that okay?
That works.
Is that all right with you?
July
Laura?
7th?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, the 7th at 3. Pardon, Greg?
Yes, you say July.
July 7th at 3.
I'll be here on the 7th.
Okay.
You get another.
So the Tuesday, July 7th at 3 PM.
I know you are.
And the agenda will be the ad valorem tax plus continuation of the budget discussion.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay, if I could add to, if you guys wanted, I could give you better answers if I know what you need to know. So if those who didn't respond to my email,
They need it all.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
Okay, you have a motion on the floor to adjourn. All in favor,
Have a
say
second?
aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Adjourned.
Frank, did you get rained on this one?
No.
There was a little, very rain cloud just went off. And I looked at the radar, and there's a little bitty block at 265 and 71 going over. And it rained for half an hour.
Well, I played at Henry.
I know you said that.
And a couple of guys